Welcome to the Daily Beast podcast. I'm fired up. I'm also Joanna Coles, the Chief Content Officer of the Daily Beast.
I am Samantha Bee, Chief Content Officer of Getting the Fuck Out of America, which I'm doing tonight. I'm leaving for a few days.
I know, but can I point out that you are going to Paris for a luxury treat with your daughter?
And
it's not like you're leaving to go to Nicaragua.
No, but I did tell her, I did caution her to not wear any of her American flag sweaters.
Interesting. Interesting.
We're wearing all muted colors and we will be on best behavior.
Are you going to tell everybody you're Canadians?
No, but I am going to learn the French phrase for, I don't like Donald Trump either. I think he's crazy. I'm so sorry.
I think you already know that.
I kind of do. I'm an emissary of peace and goodwill.
Okay. Are you indeed?
Yes.
Okay, if you haven't got a subscription to The Daily Beast, you should have one by now. It's very straightforward. You just go to thedailybeast.com. And here at the podcast, we obsess on the people and the stories that we love at The Daily Beast and that you've been reading this week. This week, we're talking about hundreds of things, because why wouldn't we? We're talking about Sarah Wynne Williams' new book that Mark Zuckerberg doesn't want anybody to read. No. But we are also going to be, well, at least I want to mention how moved I was by watching, I hate to say it, Elon's achievement in bringing SpaceX's Dragon down to Earth in those beautiful parachutes and bringing back Butch Wilmore and Suni Williams, who've spent 9 months in space. And they were greeted, how could one even orchestrate this by a pod of dolphins? I found it very moving. I almost cried. I haven't cried for 25 years, but I was almost moved to tears yesterday.
That's nice. What if the dolphins were there to eat them? You don't know what goes on in the mind of dolphins.
I don't think dolphins eat people. I think they were there clapping their fins underwater and we couldn't see it. But what a glorious way to come back down to Earth after 9 months of being stuck in space with one person in a space capsule. Can you imagine?
I don't want to open a whole kettle of worms here. But I will say that on my honeymoon, my husband and I witnessed one dolphin rape another dolphin.
Of course.
At an aquarium
Of course
in
you did.
Cancun, Mexico. And so I'm just very suspicious of those creatures.
Okay, well, that's good to know. Okay, so we're also going to be talking about the chaos at the Kennedy Center, Chuck Schumer's now scrapped book tour.
Yes.
And of course, the biggest question you've all been asking yourselves, is President Trump post-sex?
I hope so.
It's a subject of much speculation among his White House aides.
I feel that we have really started this podcast with a bang.
We have
so to
started
speak.
it with a bang. I will say, I'm very disappointed we don't have another child to announce belonging to Elon Musk.
Yes.
So good news on bringing them back from space. Bad news that we don't have a new baby to announce.
Such bad news.
Such bad news.
What a shame. I'm sure there's one cooking somewhere.
So in the download, we're going to be talking to our former federal prosecutor and brilliant Daily Beast legal correspondent, Shan Wu. And joining us as our beasts of the week, we've got 2 of them this week, are the Emmy award-winning writers and producers and creators of Will and Grace, Max Muchnick and David Cohan. Their new show, Mid-Century Modern, is out next week, and it's hilarious. It's one of the best written things I've listened to or watched for a long time, and as refreshing as the jugs of the world's most delicious martinis that Max serves in his garden.
Oh, that sounds incredible.
Yeah, there is nothing better than going to Max's house, which I try and do every time I'm in LA, for a refreshing martini, which is so powerful you almost have to be carried out. We've got so much to talk about, Sam, and I need to get you out of here quickly because, as we've said, you're going to Paris tonight.
I am.
In your gesture to escape American oppression.
I just need to climb a mountain of brie, and then I'll be fine.
I need to give you a list of all the things I want you to bring back from French pharmacy for me.
That's great. French pharmacy is on my list.
Yeah,
it's
of
like
course.
the top spot. I'll be there every day.
Yeah.
Rooting through all the bins for your favorite perfume.
Okay, thank you very much. And I've got various creams that you can only get there because obviously they don't pass the FDA here. Though that will probably change.
Dangerous creams.
Dangerous creams
in
from
my
France.
suitcase. I'll have to check my bag on the way back, and that's fine.
Oh, yes. Dangerous creams from France, but they will make me look thinner, blonder, younger. So it's all good.
All worth it.
Okay, what are we talking about first?
Well, let's talk about Careless People by Sarah Wynne Williams, which is a book that I loved and have already gifted to 4 people that I know and love, who I know would love it. Boy, that is a hail of a book.
So we should just say, first of all, that we were due to have her on the podcast.
Yes.
And in the same week that Facebook got rid of fact-checking, they basically stopped her from promoting the book because they claim that she's in violation of a non-disparagement clause in her severance agreement.
Yes. So they're in arbitration now. The publisher can still sell the book. This is my understanding.
It's a very weird
but
compromise.
The author, is not permitted to promote the book. Well, I purchased the book, and I love an audiobook because I do tend to drive a lot, and so I've been listening to it. I got to say, right out of the gate, the book opens with a shark attack, and that, to me, is the mark of a great book. Great start.
Well, she almost dies from the... I'm only a third of the way through the book, which is about as far as I get with any book these days.
As I've already expressed, I don't trust ocean creatures, so this really started on a very interesting note, and really never is kind of unrelenting. It's fascinating, and I know that people have a problem with it, and I know that Facebook tried to shut it down, but Facebook constantly tries to shut down criticism of themselves. I personally experienced that at Full Frontal. We had a full act planned on their shenanigans. I mean, shenanigans is a ridiculous word to use, not to scale, but what they wrought in Myanmar. We had 2 acts planned on it, and they completely shut it down the day before we were set to air. The network wouldn't let me say the things that I wanted to say about Facebook. So this book is quite satisfying to me.
Well, and they've certainly gone after Sarah Wynne Williams, saying that she created a toxic environment, she was a toxic employee, that she was let go from Facebook, and they've denied a lot of what's in the book.
That's sure. Well, the book is just a catalog of careless people doing reckless things.
And very rich people doing,
very
because
careless,
at this stage they were all becoming extremely wealthy.
Very rich, yes. What they knew, when they knew it, and how they did nothing about it. It's actually, it's just like a chronology of all the things we already know, but detest. The things that I detest about Facebook anyway, and how, they've just... The stated mission of bringing people together, bringing the world together. They've just been harvesting our data and attention under the guise of bringing people together for so goddamn long, just experimenting with all of humankind and demonstrating zero accountability. So yeah, there's definitely some juicy stories and some gossipy stories about Sheryl Sandberg and Mark Zuckerberg. But honestly, I actually think the impact of Facebook, the things they've done, are so much worse than all those juicy stories. And I loved to see it laid out in a really comprehensive way. I think it's really well written. It is very interesting, how people show you who they are when there is a power differential. And I think that is well laid out in this book as well. And I think it's fascinating.
Well, I'm not convinced I'm going to get through it now. She's a bit like a sort of Bridget Jones character, isn't she? And that she sort of ends up in slightly hapless situations where a cell phone doesn't work and she's in the middle of a third world country. I did find it interesting. What I did find interesting also was just the focus on her traveling with Sheryl Sandberg, and Sheryl Sandberg having spent $13,000 on lingerie and then offering to share her bed on the plane, which has been interpreted as a sort of quasi-sexual gesture. And having spent time with Sheryl, I slightly felt that had been misinterpreted. Frankly, when you're that wealthy, spending $13,000 on lingerie is nothing. And the character, Sarah, was heavily pregnant at the time, and so Sheryl had offered to share the one bed on the plane with her as they were travelling, which I interpreted as a slightly more generous gesture than other people did. I will also say, because she was Cosmopolitan's career editor for a time after the launch of Lean In, that I have rarely worked with such a button-down executive. She was extraordinarily well prepared. Her notes were incredible, and she used data in a way that I've barely seen anybody use it since, actually, in terms of just what is going to work, how can we appeal to people. She took it so seriously that I have very fond memories of that period, although I know since then Facebook has been in a lot of trouble, Instagram in particular. And what I find extraordinary is that half the world is on a Meta platform, because obviously they own WhatsApp, Instagram and Facebook, and the penetration of that company is extraordinary.
Well, I mean, I can only say that I, having read the whole book, I just didn't think that those moments were the focus of the book. I mean, the book is really focused on their leadership or their forays globally and like pushing into international situations where they really had no place and really had no interest in engaging responsibly with other governments. Like that's the part that I took away from it. Not so much the quasi-sexual stuff. I actually didn't interpret that sexually. I thought it was more just inappropriate, like in a workplace environment, especially on the heels of a book. I think that those situations as laid out in the book were just because the parallel track was that everybody was embracing lean in and how to conduct yourself in the workplace. And so it would seem to divert, like in many ways, the behavior of the executives at Facebook would seem to have diverged from the principles laid out in that book. And seeing someone who was so up close and personal with that whole, like that duality, the duality of that is always... Well, you get to this place in life, and I'm sure you feel this way too. You get to this place in life, and often you just wake up and go, wow, everything in this world really is a bunch of horseshit, isn't it?
I never feel like that. I wake up so excited to see what the world has wrought. What she does do very effectively is talk about her lived experience as a mother in a workplace which was extremely competitive and where she didn't feel she could ever refer to herself as having children.
Well, it seems like most of the women there felt that it was your best course of action was to just act like you had no home life, no children whatsoever, really no life outside of that place, which is
I think that was
counter, just counter the narrative of lean in.
Well, definitely counter to the narrative of lean in, but not unusual in corporate America. I remember having a colleague who, in her previous job, said she would call her children when they got home from school, and if the boss was walking past, she would slam the phone down because she didn't want him to know that she was talking to her children. And I thought, God, I've never had it that bad. I've had moments. I mean, I remember one friend saying that she'd been asked if she had children. This was Nell Scovell, actually. She was a very good television comedy writer, as you know. She worked for Letterman. They started...
She's incredible.
Yeah, Sabrina the Teenage Witch. But she said she had been asked by one male boss if she had children. And she said, I do, but their names escape me right now. Which was a sort of funny way of trying to disassociate the responsibilities of being a parent.
I've said this to lots of different people through the years. I could always tell if I was in a room with mostly male television executives and they asked me about my children, I knew that the meeting was over, that I was never going to get anywhere with them.
Wow.
Yeah, you could just tell. It was just like a question they would throw out, but they were so asleep behind the eyes if they said that question to me, like they actually had no interest in the answer.
And I'm sure they never asked Jason, your husband, that.
Are you kidding? He's probably never been asked once. Okay, so what's going on at the Kennedy Center now? What's going on? Are there new developments there? Wait, Usha and J.D. Vance got booed.
They got booed. There's been a lot of booing, actually, of Usha Vance.
Yes. Well, I don't have any sympathy for her, do you?
I do have some sympathy for her, actually. Okay. I think she's in a very tricky position because obviously she wants to support her husband, but it's hard to believe that some of the crazy things, as he says himself that he says, she agrees with, and she has to stand there smiling. In fact, there's a moment where he's on video saying, Usha, I want to thank her for being a very good second lady, but in fact, the truth is she can't do anything apart from laugh and smile, even when I say crazy things. So there was an admission of the fact he does say crazy things.
Certainly does.
And then she was laughing as he said it. Slightly unfortunate.
Slightly unfortunate, yes. Speaking of entertainment, let's talk about that deportation video.
This is extraordinary that the Customs and Border Patrol are now putting out Instagram videos, and I'm sure they're on TikTok too, of arresting people as if it is just part of the Hunger Games that is Donald Trump's America.
Yes. What was the song Closing Time by Semisonic was the soundtrack. Mm-hmm. You don't have to go home, but you can't
stay here.
You can't stay here.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
Well, and of course the band has now come out and disassociated itself from them using the song in the video. But it is extraordinary to think we're now at a moment where Customs and Border Patrol of the United States of America put out entertainment videos about people being deported.
I'm really excited to talk about I'm terrified to talk about where we go next, but I'm excited to talk about where we go next. What are the backstops?
Well, we're going to be talking to Shan Wu.
I know.
About whether or not we're actually in a constitutional crisis. Which is fascinating, right? But before we do, the one thing I wanted to mention was that there is talk at the White House. Well, they've all been asking, how does Trump get to sleep at night without Melania?
Tell me more about this.
All I can tell you is I came across a phrase, or someone gave me a phrase, which is the assumption is that our current president is post-sex. Which I think means he has more time to focus on other things. Because I think when Bill Clinton was in the White House, when JFK was in the White House, these were men who were also having sex in the White House.
Is the implication that he's backed up?
The implication is that he has a lot of time to focus on executive orders.
I interpret it differently. I interpret it as though people are saying that the plumbing is backed up and somebody needs to get in there and release the valve. Otherwise, we're just going to have bad idea after bad idea, and we just need a little calm down.
I think it might explain all the late night truth socials.
Oh, God.
Anyway, it was just an interesting idea, and I will leave it there.
I actually feel sick to my stomach now.